Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing great and studying hard for your examinations. This video is for all the CMA final students for your paper number 17, Cost and Management Audit. In today's lecture, we are going to study the topic of anti-money laundering. So we'll be studying a brief overview on this topic, anti-money laundering. It is a new topic which has been introduced in the curriculum of 2022. So I'll just show you the topics that we are going to cover today. These are the topics that we'll be covering: meaning of money laundering and anti-money laundering. So the meaning of money laundering, and AML stands for anti-money laundering. Then the second topic, we'll be studying the steps in money laundering, regulations and compliances for anti-money laundering. How is technology related to anti-money laundering? How can technology help us in the prevention of money laundering? And finally, the provisions of PMLA 2002, that is your Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. This PMLA is also in your Corporate and Economics Law CLE paper. You have already studied that, but here not all the sections of the PMLA have been included. Only a few sections that are of relevance in this paper have been included, so that you get an idea of which law is applicable in India for the prevention of money laundering, right? So we will be studying those relevant sections only. Along with that, then later we will be doing certain question and answers that are part of this chapter, MCQs. I'll be quickly going through. So let's start. The first topic is, what is money laundering, ma'am? Money laundering is basically, it's a type of a financial crime. It is a type of a crime which is related to money, that is finance. Now, how is this crime committed? Basically, let's take an example of a crime taking place. Say kidnapping. A simple example I'm giving. Okay, although it's not a case of money laundering, but just for maintaining simplicity, we are taking this example. Let's say there's a case of kidnapping. Now, the kidnapper has asked for some ransom money from the family or relatives of the person whom they have kidnapped. Now, the family gives the ransom money to release their family member, and the kidnapper gets that money. Now, this money is a proceed of crime. How has the criminal earned that money? Due to a crime, because they have committed a crime. From that crime, they have got some money. So, this is what we call proceeds of crime, criminally obtained money. Now, can the criminals show this money to the government as legitimate or legal? No. If they show it as legal money, government को पता चल जाएगा उन्होंने क्या crime किया, and then they will be logged, right? So, to prevent this money from getting traced, what do? This criminally obtained proceeds is disguised in a way. Disguised means उसको ऐसे छुपाया जा रहा है. It is given a form as if it has been legally obtained. Alright. So what is money laundering? It is a type of financial crime. Just you can also mark the things that I am marking. It's a type of financial crime. It involves taking criminally obtained proceeds, also known as dirty money, and not just obtaining criminally obtained proceeds. This is just part 1. Crime करके पैसा आया, part 1. Now उस पैसे को छुपाना और ये दिखाना कि ये पैसा मुझे legitimate यानी legal तरीके से मिला है, and disguising their origins so they'll appear to be from a legitimate source. So 3 steps. First, to obtain proceeds criminally. Second is disguising their origins. And third, showing it as if it has appeared from a legitimate source. So this is our topic number 1, meaning of money laundering. Okay, understood? So it is a financial crime. Now, what is anti-money laundering? As the name suggests, anti-money laundering, it refers to all the financial activities, all the activities which will help in prevention of money laundering. Now, who according to you think will be the most important institution in the prevention of money laundering. All the financial activities, all the financial transactions takes place through which channel? Through the banking channels, through the financial institutions. So financial institutions have here a major role in the prevention of the money laundering activities. So anti-money laundering refers to the activities which financial institutions perform to achieve compliance with the legal requirements to actively monitor for and report suspicious activities. So there are certain laws, like we'll be studying the PMLA, and also there are certain guidelines by SEBI and IRDA. So in order to comply with all these regulations, the financial institutions have to perform certain activities. Activities related to what? They will monitor and also report suspicious transactions and activities to the concerned authorities. Suspicious activities which they are detecting or identifying to be associated with money laundering. Is it clear? So that is money laundering and anti-money laundering. Different countries at different times have introduced various laws and regulations in order to combat this money laundering. The United States, they introduced the Bank Secrecy Act in 1970 to detect and prevent money laundering. Okay. Similarly, in India, we have the PMLA. Also, in international organizations like the IMF, International Monetary Fund, where 189 countries are its members. These organizations are also aiming to combat these types of financial crimes, and also money laundering is in a very big way related to financing of terrorism. Okay. So, you just highlight this part. In 1989, multiple countries and organizations formed the Global Financial Action Task Force. Okay, this Financial Action Task Force, again an organization, or you can say a body, which is working to prevent all these kinds of activities. Its mission is to devise and promote international standards to prevent money laundering and also for combating terrorist financing. The IMF also works for this purpose with 189 member countries. Obviously, there are other objectives of the IMF, wherein prevention of money laundering and combating this terrorist financing is one of their purpose. Is concerned about the consequences of money laundering and related crimes, which can have an effect on the integrity and stability of the economies. All right. So this is just a data which has been given so that we understand the intensity of these types of financial crimes, the amount of the money laundering, the proceeds from money laundering globally. It is 2 to 5% of the global GDP. If you see, US dollar 800 billion to 2 trillion US dollars. So 1 billion is equal to 100 crores. Imagine how much money is getting laundered. Now, ma'am, what types of crimes are associated with this money laundering? Crimes like smuggling, human trafficking, prostitution, drugs, relating to drugs, smuggling, all these are related to your money laundering. So these are certain crimes. Computer fraud schemes, bribery, embezzlement, all these are included with your related to your money laundering. Beyond the moral imperative to fight money laundering and terrorist financing, financial institutions, they also use AML tactics for. So, financial institutions use AML, anti-money laundering techniques or tactics for the following purposes also. Number one is morally they are, inclined that we have to stop these kinds of activities. We have to trace all these kinds of money laundering activity. तो एक moral principle you can say or moral imperative हो गया, ठीक है, moral side of the story. But along with that, they also have to do these activities in order to comply with the regulations. Compliance with regulations which require them to monitor customers and transactions and report suspicious activity, like the PMLA. Okay, also your Benami Transactions Act. There are certain regulations which impose a compliance on the financial institutions. SEBI regulations, IRDA regulations in India. Okay, I'm talking of India only right now. Second, to protect their brand reputation. Imagine a financial institution which has come in the news that the clients of the financial institutions are associated with money laundering. What will happen to the brand value and the reputation of that financial institutions? It will go down. And today, you know, everything is about news. And if there's something in the news, immediately the prices will go down, and the brand value, shareholder value of that particular institution would be affected. So in order to protect this reputation and shareholder value also, they perform the AML activities. Next, avoidance of consent orders and penalties. If you don't comply with these activities, or if you don't do these compliances, penalties and fines would be imposed. So in order to avoid all these kinds of orders and fines, and also to reduce their costs of the fines, they are complying and performing these activities. So avoidance of consent orders, criminal and civil penalties, and also reduction of cost related to fines. And also there's a capital which is being stored for risk exposure. If the institution is exposed to risk, this part of the capital can be utilized for that. In order to prevent that from happening also, they are performing these activities. So this is a question, why institutions are performing the AML activities. Along with the moral imperative, they are performing for the following 4 purposes. Alright, I hope it's clear till now. If you have any doubts, you can drop your message in the comment section. I'll reply to it. Next topic is how money laundering works. So in order to prevent money laundering, we first need to understand the mechanism of how this entire thing works. Okay, so there are 3 steps. Okay, I'll first explain and then we can go through. There are 3 steps in the money laundering activity. Now here we are not studying anti money laundering. First हम लोग समझ रहे हैं क्राइम कैसे होता है, फिर उस क्राइम को कैसे रोका जाएगा वो हम समझेंगे. ओके, सो देयर आर 3 steps. Step number 1 is the placement. Placement means whatever funds, whatever proceeds we have obtained from the crime, where do we place it? Okay, where should these funds be placed? We cannot show it that we have obtained it from the crime, right? So where to place these funds? For example, we can give these funds to pay certain false invoices in some company, hide it in shell companies, okay, or pay it to businesses which are more related to cash, okay, which generate cash. तो वो दिखा सकते हैं कि हमारे पास ये cash generate हुआ, right? So this is the placement. Second is the layering. Layering, as the name suggests, पर्दा डालना, layer डालना. That means you have to disassociate the source of funds and the funds. Okay, from where we have got this money, उसको छुपाना है, hide करना है. Okay, layering. And the third step is integration. Integration is now how to bring back that money in the economy, how to bring back that money in the flow of money back in the economy, the laundered money. Okay, so the 3 steps, we'll just read them. Placement refers to how and where illegally obtained funds are placed. Money is often placed via payments to cash-based businesses, payments for false invoices, smurfing. Smurfing means putting small amounts of money, okay, which are beyond the limits of the anti-money laundering, into bank accounts or credit cards, okay. Opening bank accounts in the names of fake persons, or say in the name of your employees or the family members, and then putting certain amount of money there. Moving money into trusts or offshore companies and that hide the beneficial owner's identity. Beneficial owner is somebody else and the company is a separate legal entity, we know. उसका फायदा जिसको मिल रहा है वो तो पर्दे के पीछे है, right? So hiding them in offshore companies, using foreign bank accounts, and aborting transactions shortly after the funds are lodged with a lawyer or accountant. Clear? This is the placement, step number 1. Step 1. Step 2 is layering. Parda dalna. Layering refers to separating or disassociating the criminal funds from their source. It involves converting the illicit, that is illegal proceeds, into another form and creating complex layers of financial transactions. See, if you hide them very easily by way of one transaction, it will be caught. So you have to cleverly, the criminals, they cleverly, not you, okay, the criminals, they cleverly layer with the help of complex transaction. First in this company, then this company is the parent company of another company, transferring funds there, like this, creating complex networks of transactions to disguise the funds origin and ownership. And the step number 3 is integration. Integration refers to the re-entry of the laundered funds into the economy in what appears to be normal and legitimate business or personal transaction. तो ऐसे उस फंड को वापस लेके आना बिजनेस में, इकोनॉमी में, जिससे कि लगे कि इट इज थ्रू अ लेजिटिमेट ट्रांजैक्शन. Okay, clear? Now topic number 3 is regulations and compliances for AML. This is a very small, easy topic. Basically, what are regulations in different countries and compliances? The FATF, that is the Financial Action Task Force, it helps the countries to establish an FIU. What is FIU? Financial Intelligence Unit, which will be responsible for managing the flow of information between their institutions and law enforcement agency. Okay, so these are the financial institutions. Okay, FIs, not FIUs. And these are the, this is say, the government or law enforcement agencies. The flow of information between these, the financial institutions will detect these kinds of transactions, trace the suspicious activities, and they have to report to the government or the law enforcement agencies. So this flow of information, how it is to be done, who will manage this? Who will manage this information, flow of information? The FIUs. Okay. By reporting suspicious activities to the government via suspicious transaction reports STRs and suspicious activity reports SARs, banks alert enforcement to possible criminal activities. Now certain laws and regulations, you see in the US they have US Patriot Act, Bank Secrecy Act. In Europe, EU 4th Anti-Money Laundering Directive. Canada, they have Proceeds of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act. Australia, Anti-Money Laundering and Counter Terrorism Financing Act 2006. And in India, we have the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Right? So, whatever be the law, whatever be the regulation, there are certain measures which are required to meet the compliance requirements. कि ये measure तो adopt करना ही पड़ेगा financial institutions को. In general, the financial institutions have to undertake the following measures to meet the compliance requirement. ये तो law में होगा ही होगा. Number 1 is KYC, know your customer. Because if your customers are genuine, they are not associated with different types of crimes. If you do a background check, a customer due diligence properly, then there is no problem, no suspicion will arise with regard to criminal activities, right? So first step is customer identification program, know your customer. क्या पढ़ रहे हैं अभी हम लोग मैम? We are studying what are the general activities that financial institutions have to undertake irrespective of which law or regulation is applying in the country. Financial institutions must require proper customer identification and verification to ensure legitimacy. Higher risk product and services, example private banking, require more in-depth documentation. Okay. Next one is large currency transaction reporting. So every law, regulation, every country will have its own thresholds that transactions which cross this threshold should be reported to the law enforcement agencies. Requirements call for institutions to file a regulatory report known as CTR, that is currency transaction reporting, for transactions above a certain threshold made by a single customer during a business day. And last is suspicious, the third one is suspicious activities monitoring and reporting. So this will be on all the financial institutions, that if you notice or detect a suspicious activity or a transaction, you are required to file a report in the form of SAR, STR. Next is the sanctions compliance. Okay, this also will be point number 4. So for individuals or companies or institutions which have been listed that this much only amount can be sanctioned to these individuals, these companies, if more amount is sanctioned, then you have to also report. Basically, the financial institutions have to comply with the sanctions compliance. Clear? The next topic number 4 is our technology and anti-money laundering. A successful anti-money laundering program involves using data and analytics to detect unusual activities. This is done by monitoring transactions, customers, and entire networks of behavior. Okay, because everything is computerized, everything these days, all financial transactions are by way of technology, by way of computers. So we have to also use technology. How will technology help us? So artificial intelligence and machine learning. What is machine learning? When machines learn just the way as humans do, it is known as machine learning. So when certain transactions or certain behaviors are being observed by the machines, they notice certain kind of behaviors and transactions getting processed in a particular manner, they learn, okay, ye cheez aise hi hogi, and that is known as machine learning. So artificial intelligence and machine learning tools can be used to detect and prevent these types of activities. How can we use the technologies for anti-money laundering? Number 1 is suspicious activity monitoring. So any kind of rare event which has been identified, any kind of suspicion, okay, how new schemes have been devised, it can be identified through machines only. Sophisticated financial crimes and new schemes. Second is intelligent alert prioritization. So technology can only help us with prioritizing and giving alerts according to priority. High priority transactions, alerts will be given first, and they will also hibernate the low priority transactions or activities. Unka alert nahi denge. Then we have alert case or rich case enrichment. That is, the investigators will be again and again alerted regarding the financial transactions. They will be given with relevant images. Relevant images will be shown to the investigators. Also prior cases, pehle kya case chal raha tha, SARs, what were the suspicious activity reports, third party data, maps, everything will be shown to the investigators. This is case enrichment, how to enrich the case, how to add value to the case through technology. Then automated SAR filings for the compliance requirements, or the suspicious activity reports can be automatically filed with the regulatory agencies. Then viewing the entity as a whole, network analysis karna. If we have found out one suspicious activity, checking whether it is related to another one or not, a holistic view. Alert scoring, again giving scoring to alerts according to priority only, it's the same. Client risk rating, which client is high risk client, which client is low risk client, where to focus more, that can be done automatically through technology. Intelligent customer segmentation, that builds smart peer groupings to improve coverage across customers and accounts. So one financial institution has so many customers. Which customers would it focus on? So intelligent customer segmentation can be done through technology. Next is peer-based anomaly detection to identify abnormal behavior for a subject relative to peers. Okay, so if I have a company and it has been traced for performing certain suspicious activities which are related to money laundering, and I also have certain sister concerns, so they are also my peers, so the peer based anomaly detection can be done. Rare event detection, if any abnormal event has been identified. Automating manual processes across the trade transaction life cycle to detect patterns of illicit trade finance activity through optical character recognition, OCR. Okay, this is about how technology can help us in how these techniques, the IT, information technology, can help us in anti-money laundering, okay, in the measures of anti-money laundering. The last topic will be the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA 2002. Only the relevant sections which are given in the chapter in your book, we will be studying those only. So, in India, the PMLA is an act to prevent money laundering and to provide for confiscation of property derived from or involved in money laundering and for matters connected therewith. So, two objectives of the act. One is to prevent money laundering and second is confiscation, okay, seizing the property that has been derived from such proceeds. Okay. This is Act number 15 of 2003. And it came into effect on 1st July 2005. Okay, this act. Now, what is money laundering according to the PMLA? We have already studied the general definition of money laundering. Now, let's study the definition which is given in the act. So, Section 3 of the Money Laundering Act defines what is money laundering. Very interesting and very, laid out definition has been given. Money laundering has been defined in PMLA under Section 3, wherein a person shall be guilty of the offence of money laundering if such person is found to have directly or indirectly committed four things. Either attempted to indulge in, I have attempted to indulge in any of the activities which are stated below, or I have knowingly assisted a party who is trying to do certain activities, or I am knowingly a party, or I am involved directly or indirectly in what? In one or more of the following processes or activities connected with the proceeds of crime. What I have done with the proceeds of crime? Either I have concealed. I have, when I say I have, means I have attempted to indulge, knowingly assisted, or knowingly a party, or involved. Okay. In concealment, matlab chupana. Possession means I have it in possession. Acquisition, I have acquired the proceeds. Use, I have used it for acquiring some other property. Projecting as untainted property. That untainted means it is not associated with crime. I am projecting, showing as if it is a lawful property. Or claiming as untainted property. I am saying that no, I am claiming that no, it is not associated with any type of crime. Okay, here the word property. What does the property mean? Okay, let's first study what does proceeds of crime mean. Proceeds of crime mean any property derived or obtained directly or indirectly by any person as a result of criminal activity relating to a scheduled offence. Correct the spelling of offence, it will be CE. Offence, or the value of any such property, or where the property is situated outside India is held outside the country, then the property equivalent in value held within the country or abroad. So, proceeds of crime, what does it mean? If I say in short, any property. Okay, now property here can be tangible asset, intangible asset, any deed or instrument, money, anything, okay? It can be associated with corporeal or incorporeal entity. Corporeal means a living human being, incorporeal means any company, trust, society, anything, okay? And an association which has a legal existence, but it's intangible, okay? So any kind of property which is derived or obtained either directly or indirectly by any person as a result of criminal activity. So how have I obtained that property? As a result of criminal activity which is related to a scheduled offense. So in the PMLA Act, in the schedule part, you will see that certain offenses have been listed. So if it is related to any of the scheduled offenses, there are three parts, part A, part B, part C. Any of the offenses, if it's related to, or the value of such property, and if the property is held outside the country, अगर वो property India में होता तो उसका क्या equivalent value होता. This is the proceed of crime. Proceeds of crime include property not only derived or obtained from a scheduled offense, but also any property which may directly or indirectly be derived or obtained as a result of any criminal activity relatable to the scheduled offense. If you are in any way related, if you have obtained a property which is not directly from the proceeds of crime, but it is related to the scheduled offense and the proceeds of crime from that scheduled offense, then also it will be constituted as proceeds of crime. The list of the scheduled offences means the offences specified under part A of the schedule. If I just give you a brief idea of what offences are there in part A, all types of offences related to narcotics and drugs, okay? Then your Companies Act is also covered, Wildlife Protection Act, Environment Act, Act against corruption, murder, bribery, all these types of acts, okay? Then your human trafficking, prostitution, child labor, labor laws, all these certain offenses from all these acts, okay, have been included in the part A. All types of, if I say major offenses, all types of major crimes that you can think of. There are around, I think, 30 or 31 acts, laws related to which the offenses are listed in part A of the schedule. Then part B of the schedule is related to the Customs Act, okay, 1962. If the total value involved in such offence is 1 crore rupees or more. And part C is related to offences of cross-border implication. Cross-border implication. What is the meaning of cross-border implication? Wherein the proceeds of crime have been either transferred or been attempted to transfer outside the country, and these are the proceeds of crime, okay, either directly or indirectly, or it has come from another country to our country and they are proceeds of crime. So अगर वो चीज़ country के अंदर हुई होती, it would have been counted as an activity of money laundering and the proceeds would have been the proceeds of crime. The property would be tainted. So all those would be included in cross-border implications or cross-border offenses. Next is attachment of property. Now what is property here? Property has been defined as any property or assets of every description, whether corporeal or incorporeal, movable, immovable, tangible, intangible. It includes deeds and instruments evidencing title to or interest in such property or assets wherever located. Okay. So what is attachment of property here? The power of attachment is given in section 5 of the Act. Section 5 grants the right that the director or any other officer not below the rank of deputy director, who is authorized by the director appointed by the central government, can attach the property involved in money laundering. It is important that to exercise the right of attachment, the concerned officer has to show the that based on material in his possession, he has reason to believe, which has to be recorded in writing. Again, the reason has to be recorded in writing, that the possession of any proceeds of crime are likely to be concealed, transferred, or dealt with in a way that might interfere with proceedings, investigation, which relate to the confiscation of such proceeds linked with a crime. So, director or any officer not below the rank of deputy director who has been appointed by the director has the right to attach the property, but provided he has to show that based on the material in his possession. Material in his possession means maybe some information, some footage of camera or any video recording, any images, any kind of material in his possession. He has reasons to believe that the proceeds of crime are likely to be concealed, transferred, or they are dealt in a way which might interfere with the proceedings or investigations under the act for confiscation. Okay, this attachment, for how many days it can be done? For a period of 180 days from the date of the order. And following, okay, and the reasons also must be recorded in writing, an important thing. The officer must forward the attachment order along with the material in his possession to the adjudicating authority. He must also explain the facts of the cases and also the reasons for such attachment. The aggrieved person now whose property has been attached, they also have a right to present the defense before the adjudicating authority that the attached property forms part of money laundering ring and is considered as a proceed for crime. They can appeal against and they can defend themselves. Clear? Nevertheless, the aggrieved person can challenge the attachment order and the validity of the reasons to believe formed by the authorized officer for attaching the property of the aggrieved person on examination if the court or forum, okay, and then it will be open to the court or forum to examine whether the reasons are correct or not. On examination, if the court or forum concludes that the belief formed by officer is not able to satisfy the statutory requirement, in that case, the attachment will be released. Okay, the attachment will be released. The attachment shall continue while the proceedings for crime go on for a scheduled offence and will become final only after the guilty judgment has been passed. Next is section 19 of the PMLA, which is related to arrest under PMLA. The director, deputy director, assistant director or any other officer authorized by the government as on a special or general order has the power to arrest a person. A person can be arrested by the concerned authority if, according to material based on the material in his possession, has reasons to believe that such person has been guilty of an offence punishable under PMLA and the reason has been recorded in writing. After arresting such person, the authority, whoever has arrested, is bound to inform the arrested person on what grounds they have been arrested. Forward a copy of the arrest order along with the material in possession to the adjudicating authority and also present the person within 24 hours before special court or judicial magistrate or a metropolitan magistrate, as the case may be, which is having jurisdiction in the locality, in the place. Again, there is no require to produce an arrest warrant before arresting a person. Okay, arrest warrant को court के सामने produce करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. They can just directly arrest a person. That means it is a cognizable offence. Bail under PMLA, it is section 45. Again, all the offences, the arrest is the offence under PMLA, they are cognizable and non-bailable. Cognizable offence means what? A cognizable offence is where a police does not have to produce or get the arrest warrant approved from the court, take permission from the court before arresting a person. Without taking court's permission, directly सीधा जाके arrest कर लो. That's a cognizable offence and it is also non-bailable. Bail cannot be granted until the special court grants so. Understood? Next is section 16 of the PMLA, which is related to summon, survey and search. Section 16 is related to basically your power of survey, and section 17 is related to search and seizure. This is section number 16, power of survey, and section 17 is power of search and seizure. An officer under PMLA has the power to enter and survey a property or premise. If such officer believes that the survey will allow him opportunity to inspect necessary records which might be available on the premises in question, help verify proceeds of crime or any transaction related to the proceeds of crime which might be found on the premises, or might assist them with any proceedings being conducted under the Act. Imagine a scene from a movie where there is a warehouse and it has a lot of sacks of grains and a very dark and a shady place, and certain officers have entered the place just to survey. In the same way, the officers under PMLA, they can also survey a place if they believe that it will provide them an opportunity to proceed with the proceedings of the Act in a better way, to investigate. It will help provide necessary records to verify the proceeds of crime and also transactions related to the proceeds of crime. Next, section 17 deals with the power of search and seizure, searching and seizing or freezing also. A director or any other person authorized by the director released reason on based information provided to him or already in his possession, which needs to be put in writing, wherein he has the power to enter and search any building, place, vessel, vehicle, aircraft where he has reason to suspect that such records or proceeds of crime are kept. Break open the lock of any door, box, locker, safe, almirah or other receptacles where the keys thereof are not available. Seize any record or property found as a result of such search. Place marks of identification on such records, or make or cause to be made extract or copies from them. Can make photocopies of such records. Place marks on identification on certain boxes or places. Make a note or an inventory of such record or property. Examine on oath any person who is found to be in possession or control of any record or property in respect of all matters which is relevant for investigation under PMLA. Okay, so this is your right to search and seizure, power of search and seizure. Section 18 deals with the power of search of a person. Power of search that was related to a place, this is related to searching a person. If an authority has reason to believe, and these reasons have to be recorded in writing, that any person has secreted about his person, identity, or in anything under his possession, ownership or control, any records or proceeds of crime which may be useful for or relevant to any proceedings under this Act, the authority may search the person and seize such record or property. तो अपनी आइडेंटिटी या तो छुपाई, secreted about his person or anything under his possession, ownership or control, any record or proceeds of crime. Clear? Next is section 21, retention of records. Any records which have been seized under section 17 or 18, they have been frozen. They have to be, such records may, if seized or be retained, or if frozen, they may continue to be frozen for a period not exceeding 180 days from the day on which such records were seized or frozen. And what will happen on the expiry of 180 days? On the expiry of the period of 180 days, the record shall be returned to the person from whom such records were seized or frozen, or unless the adjudicating authority may pass an order that no, these records will be continued to be frozen or seized. Okay. Next is interconnected transaction, another very interesting section, section number 23, interconnected interconnected transactions. If any transaction is connected to a transaction which has been proved to be associated with proceeds of crime, in that case, until unless it is otherwise proved, the interconnected transaction will also be regarded to be associated with money laundering. अगर प्रूव नहीं हुआ है तो वो माना जाएगा कि ये भी मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग से रिलेटेड है. Section 23 of the PMLA deals with the presumption. Okay, so we are just presuming relating to interconnected transactions. As per the aforesaid section here, money laundering involves two or more interconnected transactions, and one or more such transaction is or are proved to be involved in money laundering. Then for adjudication or confiscation under section 8 or for trial of money laundering offence, it shall, unless otherwise proved, be presumed that the remaining transactions also form part of such interconnected transactions. Clear? Next is section 24 of PMLA. Presumptions and onus of proof. So, who has the burden to prove that I am not guilty? जिसके पास proceeds of crime पाई गई, the person who has been suspected to be guilty of offence, which is an offence as per the schedules of Money Laundering Act, that person will be required to prove that I am not guilty of such offence or these proceeds of crime do not belong to me. Clear? So, under section 24 of the PMLA, the burden of proof lies on the persons who claim that the proceeds of the crime alleged to be involved in money laundering are not so involved. Clear? The presumptions are absolute and the onus to prove the same otherwise lies on such person. The rest you can just read, go through it. Under the Act, a person accused or being investigated for money laundering is required to give a truthful statement if such person is summoned by the director. This power to the director is given under section 50 subsection 2 of the PMLA. The last part is offences of cross-border implication. This I have already explained it to you. Cross-border implication, if any person is transferring or attempting to transfer the proceeds of crime to another country or bringing such proceeds of crime from another country, that offence will also be treated as an offence of money laundering which has been committed in India. Clear? All the provisions will apply in the same manner. Is it clear? Okay, now guys, there are another two parts of this chapter which is there in your institute study material. You will just see international standards on combating money laundering and the financing of terrorism and proliferation, and then there is a guidance note for combating money laundering for the accounting profession, risk based approach for the accounting profession. Now both these topics are very vast. I studied them and I just felt that this is not very relevant for your examination purpose. Clear? Now this is not a statement, a claim that I am making that no question will be asked from here. If you have time, you can just go through these topics, and if you have any query, you can connect with me. For the purpose of this brief overview, we are not doing this topic because I feel it is not very relevant for your examination purpose, and since we are doing an exam oriented lecture, I am just skipping both of these topics. If you have time, even after qualification, if you have time, you can just go through this. And one more thing, for these international standards, if you will study, you will also have to refer to the interpretative notes. So basically, there's a document on this international standards, a 144 pages document, okay. A portion of that, an extract has been included in this chapter, but to understand those, you have to also study the interpretative notes. So you can do this once you qualify after your exams when you have free time. Now we will just quickly go through some of the solved question and answers and MCQs of this chapter. Let's just come to that part. See, such voluminous content has been given So you can just skip this for your examination purpose. I've just given an overall idea. Even if some question comes from this part, suppose, you can just opt out and answer the other questions as you have choice. But again, for MCQ purpose, questions may come from here. Also, you can go through the sum up part once, read it. There are some other laws also which are related to your money laundering, like the Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act 1974, Benami Transactions Prohibition Act 1988, Indian Penal Code and Code of Criminal Procedure, Narcotics, Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985, Explosive Substances Act. Many acts are related to your money laundering. Yes, just come to the short solve questions. What are the key laws governing anti-money laundering activities in India? The Prevention of Money Laundering Act is number 1. The rules associated rules are the Prevention of Money Laundering, Maintenance of Records Rules 2005. These are the principal laws which are enacted to prevent money laundering. Along with this, specialized authorities are dealing with the money laundering issues such as the RBI, the SEBI and the IRDAI. What do SEBI and IRDAI guidelines cover? The SEBI guidelines on anti-money laundering standards for and combating the financing of terrorism, obligations of securities market intermediaries. And IRDAI has introduced guidelines on anti-money laundering program for insurers. These are sector specific. Like for the SEBI, it's specified, restricted to the securities intermediaries, and for the insurance, the IRDAI guidelines are restricted to the insurers. What is the extent of applicability of PMLA and the rules? It will apply to individuals, company, firm, association of persons, body of individuals, agency, office, branch owned or controlled by any of the above persons. What is money laundering? We have already studied. What constitutes an offence under PMLA? This also we have studied. What are proceeds of crime? We have studied. What is property? We have studied. Does it include intangible property also? Yes, it includes intangible property also. What is a scheduled offence? We have studied this also. These offences, the list of offences which are specified under a schedule in the PMLA. This schedule consists of 3 parts specifying offences from 30 legislations. Some of the major legislations are Indian Penal Code, Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, Explosive Substances Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Arms Act, Wildlife Protection Act, Prevention of Corruption Act, Companies Act, Customs Act, etc. 30 legislations are included and it has been divided into 3 parts. Very important, what is the punishment for the offence of money laundering? The PMLA prescribes rigorous punishment, rigorous kadi saza for at least 3 years, which may extend up to 7 years. And if the crime is associated with the Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Act, the rigorous punishment may extend up to 10 years instead of 7. Instead of 7, up to 10 years. This punishment has been given in section 5 of the Act, okay? If an offence of money laundering is committed by a company, if it has been committed by a company, then every person in charge of and responsible for the conduct of the business at the time of such contravention as well as the company will be deemed to be guilty. Which authorities regulate the PMLA? Majorly the FIU India, the Financial Intelligence Unit India. The Director of Enforcement in the Department of Revenue, that is Ministry of Finance, is responsible. Clear? What are the compliances and obligations prescribed under PMLA and the rules? What are the compliances? Every banking company, financial institution, intermediary or a person carrying on a designated business, okay? Designated business here will include businesses related to certain games which involves games of chance, basically like casino and all, and other businesses are also given. We'll study it in the next question. These are known as reporting entities. They are required to verify the identity of their clients, KYC, and the beneficial owner, maintain record of all transactions and documents evidencing identity of its clients as well as the beneficial owners, and periodical furnishing of information related to certain transactions. So, 3 compliance requirements: maintaining records and furnishing of information. Who is covered under persons carrying on a designated business or profession? A person carrying on activities for playing games of chance for cash or kind and includes such activities associated with casino. Inspector General of Registration appointed under the Registration Act. Real estate agent, where the revenue, where the income annual turnover will be 20 lakhs or above. Dealer in precious metals, precious stones and other high value goods, if they engage in any cash transactions with a customer equal to or above INR 10 lakhs in a single transaction or several transactions which appear to be linked. A person engaged in safekeeping and administration of cash and liquid securities on behalf of other persons, or a person carrying on such activities as may be notified by the government. Is there a standard procedure required to be followed for verification of the client by the reporting entity? Every reporting entity is required to conduct an enhanced CDD, client due diligence, to take steps to examine the client's ownership and financial positions, including the source of funds and the intended nature of the relationship between the transaction parties. The reporting entity will be required to identify and verify its clients, obtain information on the purpose and intended nature of the business relationship, and also maintain the records registry. They will verify identity while carrying out the transaction of an amount of INR 50,000 or more, or any international money transfer operation. Who is considered as a beneficial owner? This you can just go through. Like for the company, it is given the beneficial owner will be any natural person who is acting on behalf of the company and who has interest or a controlling share of 25% or more. Partnership firm, it will be the partners. Natural person who acting alone or together has ownership of 15% or more of the property or capital or profits of such association. Similarly for trust and individuals. What are the records required to be maintained by the reporting entity, and how long do these records have to be maintained? So every reporting entity has to maintain records of all transactions and documents evidencing identity of its clients as well as the beneficial owners, and periodical furnishing of information related to certain transactions. And these records must contain the nature of transactions, the amount, the currency, the date on which the transaction was conducted, and the parties to the transaction. And the records have to be maintained for a period of 5 years from the date of transaction. What type of information is required to be furnished by the reporting entities and to whom? This you can just go through. Every information is required to be furnished to the Director of Financial Intelligence Unit, India. And what is the format? The format has been stated again by the FIU India. They have to register themselves, and an online standard format has been given in which they have to report. Who has to report? The reporting entities. Who is responsible to furnish the information from the reporting entity? From the reporting entity, 2 officers are designated director and the principal officer. The designated officer is responsible, the designated director is responsible for the compliance, to ensure overall compliance with the obligations of PMLA and its rules. And the principal officer is responsible for the overall compliance of the reporting entity. That means for the reporting purpose, who is responsible? The principal officer. What are the penalties for non-compliance with the client due diligence process, maintenance of records and reporting obligations? So, if any reporting entity is seen to not to comply with the requirements of CDD or reporting the transactions, right? What can be done? The director of FIU Int may issue a warning in writing or direct such reporting entity or on the board or any of its employees to comply with the specific instructions, or direct such reporting entity to send reports at such interval as may be prescribed. Also, they can impose a monetary penalty of not less than INR 10,000 rupees, but which may extend up to 1 lakh. What is the forum for appeal against the order of the Director of Financial Intelligence Unit India for non-compliance? They may appeal to the appellate tribunal. Any aggrieved party may report or appeal to the appellate tribunal, which is constituted under the Smugglers and the Foreign Exchange Manipulators Act 1976 within 45 days from the date of the order. And what is the forum for appeal against the order of the appellate tribunal? If you're not satisfied with the appellate tribunal's order, you may file the appeal to the High Court within 60 days from the date of communication of the decision of the appellate tribunal. The High Court may accept an appeal within further period of 60 days if sufficient cause is shown. What is the court of the first instance to try and levy punishment for the offence of money laundering? So, the first court in which a trial can be done is the special court. The government has designated special courts, so they will conduct the trials for in the first instance, the trials will be conducted by the special courts. And special court, if you're not satisfied with the order of the special court, whom will you appeal to? An appeal may be made to the High Court within the local limit of the jurisdiction of the special courts. Clear? Let's go through the multiple choice questions also. There are a few questions. Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 is Act number, I already told you, 15 of 2003. And it came into force on 1st July 2005. Financial institution as defined under Section 2L of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 does not include a chit fund company, housing finance institution, payment system operator, NBFC, Department of Posts in the Government of India. So, they are saying does not include, but the definition includes all of the above. So, the answer is none of the above. Payment system as defined under PMLA Act 2002 does include systems enabling credit card operations, debit card operations, smart card operations, money transfer operations. All of the above are included in the definition of payment system. Person as defined under PMLA includes. So, when you are answering MCQs, read the question very carefully because the question can be twisted. A Hindu undivided family, every artificial juridical person, an association of person, body of individuals, whether incorporated or not, all of the above. So, all of the above. Precious metal as defined by PMLA Act 2002 does not include. Gold is a precious metal. Palladium, rhodium is a precious metal. Diamond is not a precious metal. Platinum is a precious metal. Diamond is a precious stone, not a metal. Okay, the next question is on precious stone only. Precious stone as defined under PMLA Act 2002 does not include. Diamond is a precious stone. Emerald is a precious stone. Sapphire is also a precious stone. Graphite is not a precious stone. Offence of money laundering is defined under which section of the PMLA? Section number 3. And punishment for money laundering. Okay, I said section 5, no, I think, but it is section 4 actually. Just let me confirm once. Yes, section 4, not section 5. Punishment for money laundering is stated in section 5. Which of the following is not prescribed in the provision of Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002? Seizure of property is there, we studied. Attachment is there, confiscation is there, life imprisonment is not there. Whoever commits the offence of money laundering shall be punishable with rigorous imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 3 years but extend up to 7 years. And if the crime is associated with Narcotics Act, then 10 years. Whoever commits the offence of money laundering which relates to any offence specified under paragraph 2 of part A of the schedule. So, this is paragraph 2 of part A of the schedule is nothing but your Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Act. So here, the rigorous punishment for a term which shall not be less than 3 years but which may extend to 10 years. As per section 5 of the PMLA, the property can be provisionally attached for a period not exceeding how many days? 180 days. Director or any other officer who provisionally attaches any property under the PMLA Act 2002 shall within a period of how many days file a complaint with the adjudicating authority? 90 days. Which among the following authority appointed by the central government shall exercise jurisdiction, powers and authority conferred by the PMLA adjudicating authority? Alright, you can just go through the essay type questions, very easy. That's all with this lecture, guys. I hope it helped you. If you found it helpful, do share it with your friends and let me know in the comment section how do you like the lecture. Also, if you have any doubts, feel free to ask me. All the best for your exams. Bye-bye.